This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Robert, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. How about you?
Oh, I'm a little bit anxious, losing a bit of sleep over all these wind turbine developments, as well as a lot of other people in the area telling me they're losing sleep as well. So, I'm calling in today because today is March 6th, and that's 3 months since the last public information session that was held by Everett and Botwood, and we still haven't heard any responses back from those companies, from any of the emails that I'm aware of that anybody has sent to them. So I just wanted to put that out there. So my big concern right now with this development is not just the lack of contact from the company itself or the proponent, but I'm very concerned right now about the whole approval process from the government side of things. So one question I have is, are you aware of why they extended the deadline for the applications for these wind energy projects? Because that's an answer I haven't been able to get.
No, I don't know.
No, and I haven't been able to get it either. So from my information that I found is that exploits area wasn't even discussed until December 14th of 2022 was the first mention of exploits area being developed as a wind energy hub. So I'm curious if the extension was granted in order to allow Everett to submit their application. But again, we're not getting answers from anybody. We've sent emails to many levels of government officials. We're waiting responses back from Access to Information request that was extended for 20 days. But I'm not getting answers from anybody, even the government levels, liberal and conservative. They're saying wait for the environmental impact statement or study, sorry.
Just a quick question.
Now,
what would be the concern with the extension for application deadlines? Is there a downside to allowing folks to get their ducks in a row for an appropriate and thought-through application?
Well, no, that's actually a good idea to have their ducks in a row. But unfortunately, with this Everett proposal, since their original proposal of 300 turbines, they've also gone up 50% to 452 wind turbines at 7 megawatts, which those turbines stand 656 feet tall from base to tip. So I'm questioning the accuracy and the approval process of that original submission or application. And as well, I just want to add as well, the letters of support from the communities that were given, they were all based off that initial report or the initial information given early in 2023. So since the scope of work has increased, the number of turbines has increased by 50%, in my opinion, those letters of support are now invalid. So I think it's unethical and unfair for the company to still say that they have support from the communities when they have outdated letters of support. And as well, with the case of Everett, I've been doing a lot of research into their history. It seems there's been some news articles reporting that they are being suspected of insider information and profiteering. So with their former green energy and Bitcoin mining operation, there's been reports showing that they started mining Bitcoin just after a closed-door meeting in China, with concerns about all the energy that was being used for their Bitcoin mining at the time. Now, there's no charges or any actual laws that were broken from what I can see, but like I said, there are public articles out there.
Okay, and just so I understand your perspective, that particular issue, how does that relate to the proposals here, and what would that present as a problem for you?
Well, I'm just curious as if they have insider connections here in order to extend the deadline to get in with a shoddy proposal in order to get access to our areas. So if there is insider connections that are being taken advantage of in our area, then that signals a larger problem with leadership. I'll just leave it at that for now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to come up with a relation between the two. Because, whether there's an accusation of inside track, or you have the ear of the premier or ear of senior officials or the Minister of Environment or Industry, Energy and Technology, would that be the case for all of them? Because there wasn't just an extension offered for one proposal, was there?
No, that's right. And that's also a good point as well, because of the optics and access to information from the West Coast. by a member over there. Like he's also found that some of the dates line up to the fishing trip that Premier Fury and his father took with John Risley of the West Coast projects. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, and there's a lot of information that we're being presented with that doesn't seem to be factual or accurate at this point, considering that Senator Fury, or former Senator Fury, is working now with GH2's company with the ammonia storage, I believe.
Yeah, we're talking about a pretty small swimming pool, though, here, too, aren't we? Because there's always going to be the possibility or the optics of inside track and who knows who versus who knows what. Because, again, at the tops of industry and at the tops of finance and at the tips of politics, there's pretty heavy overlap. Some of that, and I'm not dismissing the concern because it's always got to be part of the consideration here, but we're talking about very few people that appear in very prominent roles time and time again. And they all have some sort of relationship, whether it be business or personal.
That's right. Yeah, no, I agree with that completely because, you're not just going to take somebody off the street and trust them with billions of dollars of federal taxpayer money and development of a project here. But that seems to be what's happening here in Central because the guys that created EVREC, they are not millionaires from what I can see. Their net worth is, for the chairman and creator of the company, Ravi, from what I've seen online, his net worth is about $500,000. So, most people who have a home and a cabin in Newfoundland, then their net worth is probably higher than his. As well, with their company, I'm trying to find information, but if you look on their, just a little practice for you, if you go onto the evrec.ca website or on their Abraxas website, you can see their address that they have listed as their home office, which is in Toronto. I don't have it here on top of my head, but if you take that address and you put it into a Google search bar, it'll come up with a law firm in Toronto. So it doesn't appear that they have any physical address or offices in Canada at the moment. So I'm just curious again as to the information that's being presented to the locals here and being told to trust the process and trust the government when we aren't getting accurate information or answers to our questions. And now EVREC itself is hiding behind the fact that they're saying in the last meeting that they don't want to give any information until it's 100% factually accurate, which is respectable. But at the same time, there's nobody getting any responses back from any questions, and they should have answers to at least some of them.
Fair enough. And, this comment that I'll make now is something I've said many times in the past. Even if you're supplying answers that the questioner doesn't want to hear, it's better than silence. Silence leads to going down the paths of all sorts of exaggerations or potential worst-case scenarios. And I just don't know why companies and politicians alike don't figure out that very basic concept of, answering questions is better than silence. It just always will be. You might be told something you simply do not want to hear, but at least you have an answer.
Yes, and just another point I want to add with the approval process from the government, I'm pretty sure that one of the pre-requirements that they needed to have was a decommissioning plan in place. Isn't that correct?
Yep.
So when in the meeting in December, I specifically asked, is there a decommissioning fund or a plan funds held in trust by the government or a plan in place for decommissioning? And he flat out said, or Ravi Sood, sorry, not he stated no. Short answer, no. Once the turbines are in, they're there forever. So I'm really questioning the whole approval process at this point, considering that he doesn't meet that criteria.
Well, he doesn't get to make those decisions, though, Robert. We asked Minister Parsons that direct question yesterday, not only about decommissioning cost, but who would be responsible in full and whether or not that would have to be in place before final approval was granted. He said yes. Liability funding and or decommissioning plans are part of the final approval process. So it doesn't matter what Ravi Sood says, because if the government quite clearly and well documented on this program is that those things have to be in place, then again the proponent really doesn't have any say in the matter here. They either follow along what the process and procedures are or they don't.
But even to be at this point in the stage, they need to have a decommissioning plan already in their proposal. And if he's saying that he doesn't have a plan, then my question is, how did he even get to this point in the process?
Okay,
these companies are all supposed to be vetted and verified in order to have the financial capacity to construct and operate these facilities. But yet we can see one by one these companies are going for federal dollars in order to proceed with the application processes. Now, my question is, for the one on the west coast, the GH2 that was recently announced, $128 million, is that secured by anything, or is it just an unsecured debt that's given by the government? So if this company goes bankrupt or doesn't get approval in order to proceed, or doesn't have a market in order to start construction, do they have to pay that back if they claim bankruptcy? And as well for the decommissioning costs, if these projects fail or they go way over budget and the expected cost to produce this ammonia is higher than what they anticipate, and there's no market without further government subsidies, if they claim bankruptcy, how will they pay to decommission these if there's not funds held in trust before the project even breaks soil?
Well, I mean, that's a secured creditor issue. That's, which can indeed be addressed in approvals. It's tricky when you don't have a financial relationship with the entity, because we will not, so says the government repeatedly. So that becomes a very tangly receivership issue where I don't know if anyone's got an answer to that particular question at the moment, Robert. Anything else very quickly before I have to go?
There's one more thing that I wanted to say, just real quick here for a second. I got to check my notes. So a big question I have as well is, why is the government allowing the water supplies to be used for this project and the exploits, as well as some others, I believe, to be coming from salmon rivers that are struggling in the summer months already? And then if they do have the mitigation plans, they don't have mitigation plans for wildlife at this point in time, basically from the World Energy GH2 EIS, they're saying that they will monitor and then they will mitigate if required. So again, if there are a big number of bats and birds that are being killed by these wind turbines once they're installed, if they shut down during light winds in order to protect the bats, where is their power coming from for the 24-hour operations? Because we can have days of light winds and the wind turbines may not be effective to produce power. So then if that comes from our grid, are they going to be selling power back to the customers or back to hydro at a higher cost than what they're purchasing it for? So again, there's so many questions that we have from every level of government, including federal, with the environmental aspect of it. The federal should be overseeing the fisheries and oceans, indigenous lands, as well as migratory birds.
Well, that's already been settled. They said they're not getting involved.
Exactly, but in my opinion, they should absolutely get involved, especially considering that they're providing money for these companies to proceed in the process. So they're just wiping their hands of it to leave the mess up to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to clean up once it all fails. So I don't personally see any of these proposals or projects being successful without huge government subsidies continuing on during the operations from both Canada and Germany. So I'm very, very sick to my stomach and losing sleep over this, like I said earlier on.
I appreciate the call, Robert. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, and have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.